From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
Welcome back to Hotline TV. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Chuck Todd. On Friday, the House Republicans will elect a minority leader, a minority whip, and an NRCC chair. Some pretty hot contests, John. What's the scoop that you got?
It's the old guard, which has obviously led the Republican conference over the cliff of the midterms last week, versus this little new guard thing. We've got Mike Pence running for minority leader, John Shadegg, both already getting the endorsements, I guess, of Club for Growth, sort of the Wall Street Journal crowd, the sort
Shadegg
of
and the
economic
whip.
conservative.
Yeah.
Shadegg running as minority whip against Roy Blunt. I think, although all you're hearing, or at least all I'm hearing from people within the conference, is that they want, or they're more than willing to allow Boehner and Blunt to succeed.
I think Boehner's too new back into the leadership, and he was the reform candidate just 6 months ago when they went through this. And you got to remember Boehner's roots. Boehner was in the minority, and I actually think that is something that is his advantage. He remembers what it was like to be in the minority. He didn't like it, and he came back. He got elected in '90. He was part of the gang of 7 with the paper bags over their head.
Right.
And so he's got a little bit of that fight in him from way back when. I think they'd be idiots to dump Boehner, actually. I think Boehner's the right guy for this moment in time, and I think they knew when they were having the election 6 months ago that what they were making a decision about was who was going to be the next minority leader if all hell broke loose.
Right, I think that's really true. And I think that, if the lesson of this election is that this party was falling too far to the right, then Pence and Shadegg are definitely not the candidates that you want to sort of come out as the face of the party.
The other thing is Boehner's not a Southerner, and I think they desperately need to make sure, by the way, that a non-Southern, that's why this Joe Biden...
Boehner's from Ohio, and this is a state that Republicans didn't really hit rock bottom, but
no,
came
actually,
pretty close.
and it wasn't as bad as they thought it would be, and that's something Boehner's pointed out now.
It needs to be a heck of a lot better for 08.
The whip race, I think they'd love to get rid of Blunt. I think they just don't think Shadegg can do the job, but I think they feel stuck. I think that if the caucus had every candidate that they really wanted to run, if Eric Cantor challenged Roy Blunt, Cantor would be the number 2.
I think that Pence should drop the Boehner challenge and run against Blunt, because I think that's the more sort of feasible challenge.
If I were Boehner, I would get Shadegg as a running mate on this and almost run as a ticket and be Boehner Shadegg.
NRCC?
I tell you, I can't call this race anymore. 6 months ago, if you asked the smart guys over at the NRCC, they'd tell you Phil English is going to win. They said that, no way, Cole and Tom Cole and Pete Sessions, they would split the sort of Southern votes.
Right.
And Phil English with the Northeastern base. But how many Northeastern Republicans are left in the caucus now? It's a shrinking base, though the Phil English argument of, hey, I'm from a blue state. I know how to do this.
You're no blue state.
You're no blue state.
That's the question, is whether or not, look, our Republicans, the Democrats had to deal with this in 04 and 02, the sort of, do we try to expand across the country, or do we just focus on where our base is? Right. And I think that's what Republicans are asking themselves right now. Do they try to compete anew in Pennsylvania and Connecticut, New York, and in New England, or do they just sort of focus on the base in the area, the regional bases of areas where they actually?
And then there's sort of the personality things, right? Sessions has raised a bunch of money, and he beat Martin Frost. He raised a bunch of national money, so that's his sort of shtick and his claim to fame. Tom Cole, the former political consultant, I think there's some members that worry that he'd be too advisey. He'd always have too much advice. Be too much of a consultant and not
Smart
enough
guy,
of a...
though. Tom Cole's always been
completely. I think if reporters had a vote, Cole would win.
Tom Cole reminds me of Tom Davis.
I agree.
In the sense that he's the political strategist who knows everything encyclopedia.
The question is, do you want that? Now, spend time with Phil English. He knows his stuff, too. I'll give you that. I think Phil English knows his stuff as well as anybody when it comes to these races. I guess the guy I think it's least likely going to be is Sessions. It feels like Cole and English bring something, a little extra something to the table that Sessions, at the end of the day, doesn't. But, these are beauty contests more than anything else sometimes.
All right, well then...
not good news.
Tom Cole would definitely not win.
No, come on.
Come on, I'm just saying he's not the most attractive man in the world. But that's all right, because he's a good man, and he knows that I appreciate and honor him.
You're thinking of Tom Cole? So you Phil English, hot to you.
All right, there you go.
And Pete Sessions.
That's today's episode. Please forget that the past 20 seconds have taken place. Tomorrow we'll examine some wild cards in the Republican White House field. We'll see you then. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Chuck Todd. Join us tomorrow on Hotline TV.